Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with a series that I really didn't think I was going to end up having to do because I figured Atlanta United would be in the game at this point of the start of the season. We'll hold all the Atlanta United talks for another video because I do want to talk about the game that I went to this past weekend, my experience, the disappointment in the game, the excitements of the game, and everything like that. But as an Arsenal fan as well, this past week obviously losing 10-2 to Bayern on aggregate in the Champions League really put as much fuel on the fire as you can expect on the Arsene Wenger leaving Arsenal talks. So my thing is, I'm kind of in the same boat at this point. He's done so much for the club. I want him to go solely for the reason because I don't want to see his legacy tarnished any more than it already has been. All these new fans coming to Arsenal have no idea what Arsene Wenger has done for our club. He's been a manager for Arsenal almost as long as I've been alive. There was only a 1-year period of me being alive where Arsene Wenger was not the manager of Arsenal Football Club. So with that said, I think his time has come, and we're going to be looking at life after Wenger. And as you guys are actually going to see in this episode, I am going to go ahead and spoil it because it's going to be in the title anyways. This is going to be life after Alexis Sanchez as well. This is not something I intended on doing whenever I started it because in my mind, I think if Arsene Wenger leaves and we bring in Max Allegri, I think we have a really good chance in keeping Alexis Sanchez. But it ended up working out so that whenever I went in and made a few deals that a lot of money ended up coming my way. I didn't think a certain club would pay as much as they did, as you guys are going to see at the end of the episode, so make sure you stay tuned in that. This is just going to be kind of setting up the scenes for the upcoming season. We're going to be simulating through the preseason tournament, going through trying to figure out what players I want to sell, what players I think we need to end up buying, and my point of this series is going to be what Robert Perez said in the news not too long ago. He wants to be on the board of directors. He wants to be in charge of buying the players. He wants to have the say in who we bring in because he believes Arsenal fans deserve the best players in the world once again. Whenever we had the Invincibles at that time, were we buying the best players in the world? I'm not sure. It was more they ended up coming together, playing really well under an incredible manager, Arsene Wenger, who was hungry for a challenge that nobody thought was possible. So, but we're in a new age of football. So we're going to be looking at big players. We're going to be looking at replacing the players that are in that 80 to 81 range with better players and really just moving them, the 80-81 range players, to our bench so that we have a stronger bench. Moving on some of the youngsters in loans in other situations. We're not going to be playing Iwobi 90% of the season like Arsene Wenger is doing right now. Just so you guys know, if and when you guys see the league table, you will notice that I have actually tried to make this so that it's next season. So 3 team changes have been made. Newcastle, Leeds, and one other team that I'm forgetting right now have come up into the Premier League, and 3 teams have gone down. I will let you guys guess on who that is. It's pretty damn obvious if you've looked at the league table and looked at Leicester's form that they are staying in the Premier League, at least in my opinion, so we're going to do that in this series as well. So other than that, there haven't really been many other changes. One change that I am going to mention that some people may not be happy about is I do not think that Arsenal is going to make the top 4 this season. So with that being said, I do think we're going to get 5th place and end up in Europa League, or in the FA Cup and end up in Europa League anyways, whichever one ends up happening. So we're going to end up playing in the Europa League this season, playing in the Premier League, and just trying to rekindle the fire in Arsenal, see what we can do in our first season. See what players we can bring in. Like I said, obviously we're going to be looking at replacing our top 3. If Alexis Sanchez leaves, we have to replace him. We want to have a world-class striker up top to take that place of Olivier Giroud, Welbeck, and Sanchez, if you want us to call him a striker. And then also somebody on that right side to come in for Theo Walcott and put Theo Walcott on the bench as a super sub, which does hurt me a little. Theo Walcott is kind of that man crush player that I do have. I've just followed him since I started watching Arsenal. So he's always been that player for me. So we're looking at players like Antoine Griezmann, Marco Reus, Edison Cavani, a player that we've been linked with a lot. Higuain, another player we've been linked with a lot. Just players like that. We're going to see what we can do, who we can bring in, and really what all is possible in with this team. As you guys are going to see, we counter offer to get a little bit more money for Gabriel. Honestly, I like him in this game, but in real life, I do think that he needs to move on because he does not fit the style of this club at all. Honestly, I think he could actually do really well with a loan from Arsenal because he has everything in his power to be a player like Mustafi that pushes up higher, but also does really well. As you guys see, we actually end up getting knocked out of the cup really early. Wasn't expecting that at all, but like I said, I was just simulating with the second team, trying to get them as much play time as possible, see if I could boost their worth a little bit so that we could actually manage to get a little bit more money in for them. So it ended up working out a little bit in our favor. We've sold off a few players already for good money, and we're going to keep going in that realm. So like I said, we're looking at really big players to come to this club. This first window, I am incredibly focused on just fixing the top 3 and getting in players that I really enjoy playing with in this game, and then maybe in the winter transfer window we will work on the defense, because as of right now, Mustafi, Koscielny are going to be the starting 2. We'll bring in 2 more center backs in this window as well, just to give us a little bit more depth after we do lose Gabriel. The midfield, however, is probably not going to change. As you guys may have already seen, we did recall Wilshere, so he is back with the team, obviously, because he would be back next year anyways, and I have zero interest in selling him off. And then also Szczesny we brought in back into the team, but we ended up selling him off to Milan. So we do still have our 2 keepers that we have currently. Possibly looking at making a change in that realm as well, and looking for a younger replacement for Ospina, and maybe somebody a little bit taller that can better suit the Premier League style of play. So as you guys see here, we're looking at maybe some younger center backs to come in and work their way into the team as our backup players. I'm looking at players that can ultimately take over that Koscielny spot and ultimately take over that Mustafi spot at some point as well. So we're looking at younger players from La Liga that I've played with before that I really am comfortable playing with. I was looking at Bonucci because I knew he wasn't happy at Juventus, but that change ended up not actually coming through. So that's not going to be a move that we're looking at. Jimenez is another player that I would like to bring in, but also a little bit too much money, in my opinion, for a backup center back. If we were going to be starting him, I'd be more than happy to spend that money on him. As you guys may have seen right there, Carlos Vela actually went to Man City. A lot of the signings that have been made, and hopefully I'll actually go through and look at all the transfers from this window, but a lot of the Premier League signings that have been made don't make a lot of sense to me, but it is what it is. Here is the selling off of Szczesny right there. He wasn't a player that I was really planning on selling. I actually really do enjoy having Szczesny in the team, but for around 20 million, I figured it would be a pretty good business to actually let him go, and then possibly actually end up looking at Donnarumma from AC Milan to bring into the squad. So that's a move that I'm going to be making a little bit closer to the end of the window once we actually have made our more important moves first, if that makes sense. So Inigo Martinez is a player that I'm very happy to bring in. He is a player that I've greatly enjoyed playing with Real Sociedad and other teams. So he's definitely a player I want to bring in to sit behind possibly Koscielny at that point. And then we're also looking at one other player in getting, as you guys are going to see though, a lot of the youth players are going out. A lot of the unwanted players I'm going to be selling off, and it'll be interesting to see how things go. Here in this deal for Marco Reus, I was kind of trying to decide how much I was willing to pay for him, along with Cavani. They actually come back and say that Cavani's not for sale at any price, but we all know that that's never actually true in the world of football, so you just have to throw up a price and hope for the best. This is the other center back I want to go after, and that's going to be Lucas Hernandez. Another young center back that I think has a lot of potential and will be really good for our team. If I remember correctly, I believe he has medium and high work rates, high being defensive, so I think he'll be able to sit back really well and play next to Martinez, who will also kind of be that medium work rate, and they'll bounce off of each other really well, just like Mustafi and Koscielny do currently. So Petacek is still going to be in goal for us for a little bit, and hopefully he can play for the team for a couple more years while I try to get Donnarumma up. Here a deal comes through for Ospina, but I'm really not that interested in going for him. Dortmund say they want 85, I say 55, and honestly didn't think that would work, and it ended up going through. So Marco Reus could possibly be joining the team so long as he accepts his contract. For 55 million though, I'm more than happy to bring in Marco Reus. I think he'll play really well in that left mid spot. Again, at this point I hadn't sold Sanchez, and I had every intention in having a top three of Sanchez, Cavani, and Marco Reus. But bringing in Marco Reus obviously left a pretty big hole for Dortmund. So I'm sure you guys can kind of see what team is going to be coming after Sanchez in the coming moments here. The timing of the deal wasn't ideal, and I think I should have actually pushed it off a little bit. That way I could have used Sanchez in the Liverpool game. But as you guys are going to see, the deal ends up coming in right at the beginning of the season, and I actually end up losing out on him at a bad time, but I don't think it'll affect us too much. So the Antoine Griezmann and Dybala deal I end up just kind of winning off of, and thought, you know, maybe it's not all that big of a deal for me to get those two in and spend an absurd amount of money. So we're looking more at this team currently, bringing Jack Wilshere probably onto the bench. I don't think he'll make it into my subs just yet, but we do want to make sure that our defensive players are higher up on the bench and our team is starting to make a little bit more of a shape. So again, still looking on fixing those top two players in Welbeck and Wolcott, and then probably going to be looking at bringing in another right back, left back situation in the next window. Keeper, again, not too worried about Ospina, but we are going to go after Donnarumma near the end of the window so long as we still have money. Again, this is just, I know, an episode of scatteredness, just trying to get as many players in as we could, trying to fix everything up with the team. Wanted to get players in that I enjoyed, get players out that I did not, and really just get this going with big name players coming into the team, and me not wasting time thinking, you know, this player is going to be too much money, or this isn't a player that Arsenal would necessarily buy. But here you see the 55 million goes through for Marco Reus, and he'll be joining the squad, meaning now we have Sanchez and Marco Reus in the team. And now I'm just trying to seal up this Edison Cavani deal, trying to see what money I can give them to try to make the number come down a little bit more, because in my opinion I shouldn't have to spend the same money I did on Marco Reus for Edison Cavani, but nonetheless we'll end up kind of working out a deal with them and seeing how much they really want. So still looking at other players I'm possibly going to want to sell. Mertesacker is probably going to stay in the team just because I think he's going to retire with the club. I don't want to sell him off, and I'm hoping he actually ends up retiring by himself in the game, so we can hope for that. El Neni, another player, really I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep or not. I haven't really liked him in real life. In FIFA, he's been an up and down player for me as well, so if I got the right deal, I was willing to sell El Neni off, but wasn't that big of a player that I was too worried about taking out. So as you see, as of right now, my idea was to have Sanchez on the right, have Marco Reus on the left, and then inevitably Cavani down the middle if I could ever get him and figure out what deal it was going to be. Debuchy ends up having a deal come for him for about $5,500 or euros at this point. And I thought that was a pretty good deal, you know. I think that would be a decent deal to get rid of an older player that I wasn't that keen on having. As you see, Dortmund comes in with a 52 million deal for Alexis Sanchez. Again, I don't think he was less of worth than Marco Reus, so I'm like, okay, give me 70 and he's yours. Me thinking 70 million was too high of a number for Dortmund, not really thinking about the fact that I had just sold them Marco Reus, so they had money to burn. But again, I really didn't think that much was going to be acceptable for Dortmund, but they end up saying yes and end up going into contract talks. And as you see, the Liverpool game is coming up, and the deal is actually going to go through on the day before the game. So As much as that does suck, we end up losing Alexis Sanchez, and that is going to be the end of this episode. So when we do start off the next episode, we will be kicking off with this Liverpool game. I hope you guys did enjoy, and if you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next one, I will see you guys later.